Greetings to all in the second part for today. I am with you as always, Jimmy, and today we are waiting for another selection of stories. Thanks to everyone who supports me. Well, we are starting. First story in the second part from user Internal College. Let's listen. I, 33 female, have been married to my husband, 33 male, for 4 years. 1 year ago, I had my daughter. When I was a teenager, I'd been vulgar assaulted by a family friend multiple times. This has left me with a lot of complex feeling about my body. My abuser told my parents that the abuse was my fault because I dressed slutty around him. He was 40s and I was 14. For years, I would only wear baggy clothes and not do my hair and makeup. I've gotten some therapy and worked hard to overcome these feelings of self-blame. But being pregnant and having a baby messed with my body image a bit. I have been working out a lot and am really liking my body currently. It feels very freeing. My SAL-29 female knows all about my past abuse and my issues with blaming myself and my teenage clothes for my abuse. She is married to my BIL-30 male, and the 4 of us have always gotten along. We are going on a trip with my husband's parents, my BL and SIL, and their 2 boys, 8 and 6 male. My SIL texted me and asked me to not bring any bikinis because she had 2 young boys. I thought this was weird, but I told her that I wouldn't if that was important to her. She came over last weekend, and I had cloths out to pack for our trip. She wanted to see what I was bringing. She framed it in a fun, lighthearted way. She saw my bathing suit and asked me why I was bringing that, since she asked me not to bring a bikini. I told her it was not a bikini, but a covering 2-piece. She got very quiet and started looking through my pile of clothes. I also had a maxi dress that has spaghetti straps. Again, she asked me if I could bring some more modest. I told her I was uncomfortable and it was such a big deal for her boys to see me in a dress. She finally admitted that she did not want me to wear any flattering clothes or bathing suits around her husband. She said her husband had been struggling with a slut addiction, and they clothes I was bringing would make it hard for him and would be tempting. This is where I may be the asshole. I was so grossed out and angry. I told her very assertively that she was crazy if she thought, I need to cover my body to keep her creep of a husband from jerking off to me. I told her how wrong she was to say that to me when she know my past issues. I also told her she is gross for at first using her kids, when the real reason is she didn't want her husband looking at me. She started crying and left. She called my husband, her brother, later crying and asking him to make me bring more modest clothes. My husband completely took my side and told her if it's such an issue for her husband, then maybe they should not come on the trip. My mother-in-law has now gotten involved and is asking Mai to bring a more covering bathing suit and modest clothes. Author edited the story. For context, my husband's family is extremely religious. Think Duggar family religious. Sorry I never post on Reddit. I'll give more info that has been asked. My BIL has never made me feel uncomfortable. In fact, I thought we had a good relationship. He was not raised in the Pentecostal church, but did join when he married my sister-in-law. My husband and I both grew up in church, but have since left. My mill has asked me to bring modest clothes, but she's not mentioned an addiction issue. I assume she knows, but when I look at her messages objective, it could be very possible that my sister-in-law told her I was bringing very skimpy clothes. Also, my husband is paying for the trip completely. I bought my dress recently. This is the dress. I thought it was beautiful and I was so excited to wear it, especially since I had a baby 9 months ago. I might even return it because it feels like it's tainted and I just think of my in-laws when I wear it. Author update the story. Wow, thank you so much for your support, especially those of you shared experience with in the past. My husband has been away for work, but landed early this afternoon. On his layover, he canceled the reservations for the trip. He is currently on his way to his sister's house to confront my BIL. His plan is to show up to their house unannounced and take brother-in-law out for a drink and talk to him away from my sister-in-law. I will post an update tomorrow. Thank you all so much for your kind words. Author update the story in the second time. Hi everyone! I accidentally deleted my OG post last night, but I will post the body of my original post in a comment below. I want to say thank you all for your support and advice. Especially thank you for people who damned me with their personal stories of abuse and church trauma. I'm so grateful for you sharing your stories. To answer if you have any questions, I am very average looking, but by conventional standard, I have a nice body. I'm 5'6" and 120 pounds. Since I had my daughter, I've been going to Pilates 3 times a week. For the first time of my life, have some abdominal muscle, which I'm very, very proud of. I don't mean this as a subtle brag. I also put a good amount of effort into the way. I look such as doing my hair and makeup and wearing well-fitting clothes. My sister-in-law is a very attractive woman. She is much taller than me. She has gained about 40 pounds since she had her kids. And I know that she feels a bit self-conscious about it, but she said she's not willing to change. She said that she's a mom, so it doesn't matter what she looks like. I wonder if she's having a bit of depression because she's about how now she stays without even showering. Again, I'm not saying myself to my sister-in-law, just trying to give a better picture. So, for the update, to make things clearer, I will refer to my husband as Tom and myself is Kate. I referred to my sister-in-law Jill and my brother-in-law as Jack. My husband showed up at my in-laws' house unannounced last night. He said my brother-in-law was happy to see him and he asked to go for a walk with him so he could talk. One thing that was interesting is that my brother-in-law wasn't under the impression, but the trip was still on for this Saturday. My husband said this is the most awkward conversation he ever had. He started by asking Jack, my brother-in-law. He started by asking Jack if him and his wife are having any trouble because his wife had mentioned that he had a slut addiction. My brother-in-law rolled his eyes, said he's only looked at porn once since Christmas. He looks at it once every couple months. His wife is convinced it's an addiction. He told my husband it's frustrating because he feels shamed for normal vulgar desire. He also confided into my husband that him and his wife has not had sleep in over a year, and he's not sure what to do. He said he has suggested counseling, but his wife only wants to see someone from the church was not a licensed therapist. My husband said, well, Jill said it was enough of an issue that she didn't want Kate to wear a 2-piece bathing suit or a sundress on the trip, because it would be difficult for you. He said, my brother-in-law is very surprised and upset, and asked a bunch of questions about the incident. My husband said that my brother-in-law was mortified. My brother-in-law said, wait, does Kate think I've been thinking about her in that way? My husband told him that was what Jill implied. Again, Jack was mortified. He profusely apologized to my husband and said that it's not the case at all. He said he wanted to apologize to me directly, but he didn't want to make me feel more uncomfortable, and he was so sorry. My husband asked him if he had any pictures of me and his phone that he had taken without my consent. Immediately said, absolutely not, and gave my husband his phone and told him to look through it. My husband also asked my brother-in-law Jack if he had made any comments about my body to his wife or others. Jackson said that he had made a few comments that he thought were innocent, but in the lie of day, he can understand how they could have been construed otherwise. He said that he had made comments when I was pregnant about me being glowing. He also said that recently he has been talking to his wife about how he thought it was adorable that I had made a point to work out and make time for myself after my baby was born. He said that he had mentioned I had looked good, and he knew how hard that is to make time to work out with a little one. Jack apologizes that he realized that these comments he thought were innocent might not have been the most appropriate, and then going forward, he will be careful, but he says his wife and others. My husband told him that even though the air has been cleared, but the trip is off. Jack said he completely understood and he would tell his boys this morning, and that he would be talking to Jill. About an hour ago, I got a text from Jill saying, my kids are devastated, I hope you're happy. I have ignored her. My husband is going to talk to his parents today, and wants to give it a few days before you talk to her sister. That's all for now. Thank you again for all of your support. The author edited the story for the second time, because I can't recover my original post. This is the dress that I bought that my sister-in-law did not want me to bring in the trip. I think I'm going to keep it because, honestly, I love the dress. And everybody hyped me up. Thanks again. The author has updated the story for the third time. My brother-in-law sent this text to my husband about an hour ago. Please share this with Kate if you feel like she's in a good place. Kate, I am so terribly sorry. I know this is really uncomfortable, but I just wanted to let you know that I have never used any thoughts or images of you in a vulgar way. I feel sick to my stomach having to say that. I really truly apologize if I have made comments that made you feel uncomfortable. I'm sure there's more I could say, but I just wanted to let you know how truly apologetic I am for the whole situation. I understand if you do not want to see me and Jill for a while, and that's totally okay. Please don't feel bad about the trip. The boys are fine. This was a good apology, and I tend to believe him. What I think about this story, I also think the forced guilt around it leads to it becoming an obsessive thought, which then feels like an addiction since you can't seem to stop. So religion literally turns a non-issue into a problem by warping people's perceptions. In the same way, if you were told it's a sin to use the toilet, you would obsess over how badly you needed to pee or poop until you couldn't take it anymore and caved. Then the cycle of guilt need release would happen again and again until it was all you ever thought about. Meanwhile, normal people would just relieve themselves and go on with their day without a single thought. Let's check the user's comments and author answers. Is there a chance Jill is cheating on Jack? Just the no sleep for a long time gives me that vibe. I would be shocked if that was the case. She was 18 and he was 19 when they got married. He's the only man she's ever been with. Interestingly enough, they got married so young because they were having sleep, and her parents found out and pressured them to get married. It's unfortunate that really the whole problem is that Jill is insecure and, it appears, a bit jealous of you. If that's all Jack, I don't see the problem. At least now you know Jack hasn't been a creeper toward you. And yet again, Jill can't take any responsibility for her actions and is trying to blame you. You aren't the cause of her kids being devastated. This situation and not being able to go on this vacation is completely on her shoulder. I hope that you, your husband, and the family still go and get away for a bit though. Would be nice to relax after all the BS. Yep, I grew up in the Methodist church, and it was fucking eye-opening when I decided to read the book myself. A lot of verses he liked to repeat in his sermons because they served their preconceived notions so well, all that other inconvenient stuff was never mentioned. Funny thing that. Interesting thing, the King James Bible was originally written because King James didn't like that the Geneva Bible, aka the Breaches Bible, was becoming popular, and he hated that the most popular version of it included annotations explaining how the text should be interpreted, meaning the Church of England, which he was the head of, couldn't control people's interpretation. The King James was then the inspiration for the New International Version, which did reference original texts, but was largely written because someone got a bee in their bonnet about not liking the archaic English and got their church to help with rewriting it in more modern English. They then included some changes, like a footnote, saying 1 Corinthians 11:4-7, talking about uncovered head, was referring to long hair, because they wanted to harmonize it with modern dress practices. So the passage literally says that women should wear head coverings while praying, and the NIV notes. This just means women should have long hair. So even if you're not cherry-picking, the authors of the various Bibles themselves cherry-picked the interpretations they preferred, or in some cases, completely changed rules to suit themselves. Think how often in the West it's described as oppressive for women to wear head coverings, and yet in the Bible. I worked with a Jill once. It was her personal mission to police the behavior, clothing, and even food choices of everyone in the office. Management had to send out several emails to remind her that she wasn't my boss, and it wasn't her place to tell me how to do my job if I was doing what management had instructed me to do. Weirdly enough, one time she brought in a photo of her granddaughter and showed it to me. She said, "Isn't my granddaughter so beautiful?" And I was like, this is uncomfortable. I was in a long-term relationship and her granddaughter was a few years too young for me anyway. I nodded, unsure what to say. That just seemed to annoy her. She tried again. No, seriously, isn't my granddaughter so pretty? I had no idea what to say. A light went off in my brain. I'd found the word that would get me out of this situation. Yes, she's lovely, I said. I felt that struck the right level of appreciation without sexualization. She did not like my answer. "She's not lovely," she said, raising her voice. "She gorgeous." And at this point, my brain is spinning inside my skull. Does she want me to date her granddaughter? Why did she care so much? Why was she so invested in getting her co-workers to vulgar objectify her granddaughter? Especially considering that Jill seemed to hate me, and I wasn't available. and the age difference was a few years. Too large for comfort anyway, and I'd have preferred to remove my own spleen with a plastic spork than have Jill as an in-law. I still have no idea what to make of that conversation. But yeah, my Jill was also a hyper-religious, anxious, controlling, and vulgar, weird person. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. Do not forget to write comments. I will definitely read them. I love everyone. Bye-bye.